Hey everyone, I'm Michele Snyder, and we are so excited to be here with you today. I'm with Amber Benson, and she and I have a lot in common, don't we, Amber?
We
We,
do.
oh my goodness, both of us have quite the story here. We were crying out to God at one point in our life. We were desperate for help. And he came along and he pulled us up out of the pit, didn't he, Amber? And he set our feet upon a rock and he established our goings. He steadied our steps and he put a new song in our mouth. And we have a story to tell, don't we? Not only of our our loving Lord who heard us and answered our prayer, but what he did as a result of that prayer. And so he answered both of us the same way. And another thing is, Amber and I both came into this with a very strong opinion that we were not going to do this as a business. No way, no how. But that changed as well. And we were talking earlier, and that kind of happens, doesn't it, Amber, when you start experiencing great changes? You know, you can't help but talk about it. We find a good restaurant, we tell people, right? We watch a good movie, we want to tell everyone, you need to watch this too. So that's kind of what happened. We both started the business through the back door and it surprised us, didn't it? So with
Oh, yeah.
that, I am going to turn this time over to you, Amber. And what we want to hear from you first is just a summary of what your life was like before you started Plexus. And then what were the circumstances that actually brought you to Plexus? So if you would start out with that, we would love to hear your story.
Sure. So from the time I was a young girl, I struggled with just low moods, depression. By the age of 12, I was put on an antidepressant and basically just said my whole life was told you have this chemical imbalance and you just have to take these meds and just live with it. So I didn't like that answer, but it was like, okay, well, that's what they say. So I was on that medication from the time I was 12 until the age of 25. So I was on it for even the first three of my pregnancies. And my doctor at that point kind of said, like, we don't have enough research to know if it's safe or not. So you could just stay on it. Well, by my fourth pregnancy, she was like, yeah, we've done some more research and it's probably not safe for your baby. And so, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to stop then. Like, it had been 13 years on this, and I had always kind of gone back and forth, just thinking, like, I don't want to be on these forever, but I don't know what else to do. And so I stopped with that pregnancy and I just said, I'm not going back on it. I'm just going to deal with this. And so that fourth pregnancy, then the pregnancy went well, but then afterwards I had severe postpartum depression and I didn't realize it in the midst of it. But like to the point where even just getting up out of bed every day was just such a struggle. Like I could hear life going on around me. I could hear my kids getting up and helping each other get ready for the day. And I just couldn't physically get out of bed. And it happened for a long time. And I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed and I didn't know like what was happening. So that was really hard going through that. But I just kind of was like, I'm not going back on the meds because I don't know if or when we're going to get pregnant again. And, I didn't want to go back and forth. And so I just was like, I just have to live with this, I guess.
Did you
Um,
did you stop cold turkey or did you gradually go
Oh,
off?
I did gradually, and I wasn't on like a super high dose, but I did gradually just slow down.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it was interesting, but it was like I'm just gonna tough it out, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so that was when I was 25. From the time that I stopped the meds until March of 2019 was about 7 years. Um, March is when I had seen Chelsea, my friend, post on Facebook, just like, hey, I started taking these supplements. We recommend them. I recommend them to other people, and now I'm taking them. And she had just mentioned like some of the health things she had seen. And it didn't even, I don't even think it regarded like depression and stuff. It was just like my sense of smell and, I have more energy. And I thought, okay, well, I would like that,
Who doesn't
at
want
this
more
time
energy, right?
right. And I think we would have had 6 kids at this point. And so, yeah, I was like, we're
It is
homeschooling, like,
good.
I'll take more energy. And,
Yeah,
so that is what I was,
something I forgot to say about you when I introduced you. You are
yeah,
a homeschooling mom,
yes.
and Amber has, did I say you had 7 children? I don't
We
remember,
had,
but
yes.
we have a house full, and she definitely needed energy.
I did.
Well,
So, yeah. So I reached out to her and I just said, hey, I saw your post. Like, can you tell me more about what you're taking? And I've heard the term of like, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And honestly, I kind of feel like that's how it was. Like, she could have said anything. And I was just at the point of like, okay, God, like you said, I was praying for answers. And I'm an overthinker. So when I look back, I think it was like a month or two of just little bit trickled in communication with that she would give to me because from the time I asked her before I finally said like, let's do this. Um, and she was just really diligent with just like checking in on other things that were not related to Plexus, just investing. Um, but I had been praying and I was like, God, is this the answer? Like, I was expecting something different, but I just really
no,
felt that he, like, you got to trust me.
I think as Christians, we think when we pray that God is just going to zap us, and He
Yeah.
can. He does work that way sometimes. And that's what
Yes.
we think. He's just going to it's just going to go away. You know,
Yeah.
He chooses other ways, other methods to
Yeah.
answer our prayers. And so, yeah,
Yeah. Cause I would say, like, you can heal me. Like, why not just take all of this away? And yeah, which
that's awesome.
tons. Yeah. Yeah.
Did did Chelsea talk to you at all when she signed you up, when you decided to start taking Plexus, which I assume you started with the triplex?
I did.
Did she talk to you at all then about doing it as a business, or did she mention it at all?
No. The only thing I remember was she had said, I added you to this page. I think it was the Guts and Grace, maybe. I added you to this page, and it's for people that are selling it, but it has a lot of good information. And so in my mind, I heard, oh, people selling it, that's not me. Because another part of my background is I've tried other things like that. I've done other things, and I lost friends throughout it because they were like, I don't, that's all you want is for me to buy something from you or whatever. And I'm not like, I've told people too now, the other things I sold, I never really thought like people needed them. It was like, well, you could upgrade your bag or you could do this or that, but you don't really need it. Like, it's not going to change your life. And so my heart was really never in it. And so I had told God, like, I'm not ever doing that again. Like, and that was how it started with, I used, I, I saw these differences. I saw healing. I started seeing these changes, but I kept it to myself for it was like 18 or 19 months.
Wow.
And I just kept saying like, I did tell one friend in the beginning and she jumped in with me. So we've been kind of doing this together for the last almost 2 years, which has been really fun.
Yeah.
And I would here and there, like, people would ask me, oh, what are you drinking? I'd have my pink drink or I'd mention little things, but it was never like, I'm
Right.
not doing the business,
Yeah.
not doing.
I was involved in a few MLMs too. I started
Okay.
out in the 20s, and I've tried all kinds of different things. And I wasn't good at it. So I had just kind of come to believe that I'm just not a salesman.
Yep.
And so when this started to happen and I started to experience changes, of course I was going to tell people. And I realized too that this is not selling.
Yeah.
When I talk to people about it, it's not, will you do this for me? It's,
Yep.
I believe in these products. I
Yep.
believe 110% in the changes that they will bring. And so it's not about me. It's not do this for me, which it was before, you want to buy some jewelry, or whatever. I have these beautiful little nail strips and I loved the products I was
Yep.
using, but I just wasn't good at selling them. But with this is for you. We want people to experience the changes that we've experienced. So,
Yeah.
and speaking of changes, as you started taking the triplex, what were the little things that you noticed in the beginning? And then I realize it's a process. In fact, we're both still in the process of healing. Neither one of us are where we want to be. Okay, we lost our connection there, but we're going to try to pick up where we left off. And I think I was in the process of asking you, Amber, what your early changes were when you started taking Plexus. Did you notice anything right away, or did it take a while? And then also, are there later results that came along and was there anything that surprised you? Well, I know there was because you talked about your depression and you didn't expect that. So let us hear the rest of your story.
Yeah. So one of the things I started noticing after I stopped those antidepressants was panic attacks. So before it was depression, I had been hospitalized multiple times, like self-harm, bad, suicidal thoughts throughout the years, but I had never had panic attacks until I stopped those. And so that was something new that I was really trying to deal with. And over that 7-year period, um, it got to the point where when Plexus found me, when God brought Plexus to me, I was having 2 to 3 panic attacks a day. And so, like, I remember telling our therapist, like, just my heart would race all day long. And, like, I was just waiting for the next one to come. And, I had tried all the different things and I'd pray through it and I'd try to breathe. And it was just inevitable, 2 or 3 a day. And so, um, one of the things I started noticing was in that first week, I hadn't had a single panic attack. And it was like, what's going on?
Ah,
And I was more calm. Like I could normally, like I give the example often of walking into one of the kids' bedrooms and it's like all of the toys are out everywhere. And the the home I grew up in was like everything was in its place. It had a spot, like so clutter and gives me that like it would just start that panic attack right away. So if I would have walked into one of the kids' rooms and it was like that, it was like I could feel it come and I would start like raging mad at the kids, and like, I'm getting the garbage bag and you're losing all this stuff. And like, just because I couldn't calm within myself. So I was trying to control everything outside of me always. Like, so I started to find even things I would do throughout the day to keep control around me so that I could try to be controlled inside, like keeping everything tidied, or like if I would open a drawer and it was messy, I'd have to fix it right away. And I've noticed that now over time, like I'll open that drawer and be like, oh, well, okay, it's kind of messy, so even things like that. I What has been so crazy too is just having self-confidence that I've never ever had before. And like my entire life I would tell my kids how pretty they were, and that God loves you and he made you, and my husband would say, that I was beautiful, and I never could believe that about myself. And now like I can look in the mirror and I really truly believe that now. And so there's that part too of like feeling comfortable in my own body again and not feeling like it's betraying me to
Mhm.
just like be in this constant state of like um yeah. And I always knew there must be more. Like everything around me is great. I should be happy. I have this wonderful life and these kids and like I should be happier, but I never could figure it out. And now, yeah, it's like I still every day am like, is this real? Like
Right.
real, is this really happening? Like I'm almost waiting for the ball to drop, to be like, oh, it's all back again.
Mhm.
Um, but that healing and so quickly
Yes.
start seeing that.
And it happened like right away. You said the first week. Now, I
Yeah.
know it doesn't happen like that with everyone, but what a blessing, Amber, to be able to experience that so early on. And that had to give you hope. Like there really is something to this. That happened with my husband also.
Yeah.
Um, he had a chronic illness, and the very first week he wasn't healed the first week. And like I said, none of us are perfectly healed. It won't happen until we get to heaven.
Yeah.
But he knew the first week there's something to this stuff. It's different. And he'd been on all kinds of other things. In fact, he had even come to me and said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Don't come into this house. No more snake oils.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me, I don't want to hear about it. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to do what he says. I honored that. I did not say a word to him. But when
Uh-huh.
he saw what he saw in me, he came to me one day and he said, maybe I'll try some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. So
Yeah.
it's nice
Yeah.
when you get those early changes.
It is. Well, and so I was actually early pregnant with our seventh baby when I started Plexus. I was a couple months pregnant with her, and we went on a trip around the time I was 6 months pregnant with her. We did a 2-week trip through Colorado and Utah. So, like, miles of hiking every day in the heat, in the sun. And I was amazed. Like, my husband and kids would be like, oh, we need a break again. They're sitting down for water. I had my pregnant belly, the 2-year old, almost 2-year old on my back the entire time. And I was like, what are you doing, guys? Like, come on, let's keep going. And we did this for 2 weeks. And I remember just being like, where's this energy coming from? Because, like, you think, oh, it's my seventh pregnancy and I should be so tired and achy. And it
Mhm.
was just such a blessing.
Did you have any concerns about pregnancy and taking all this stuff? What is this? Did you show it to your doctor? What we have a lot of our women who have taken this during their pregnancies, and they have wonderful pregnancies, excellent postpartums, easy, well, not easy, I don't want to say that, but um,
Yeah.
their deliveries go well. But I know they all start out a little concerned, is this safe? So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So that's the other piece is I used what I thought were like really good high quality supplements and vitamins for 10 years before finding Plexus. I took them every day and I never noticed a difference.
Right.
I mean, I thought they must be doing something, right? Because I'm taking them,
It's my
but
story.
honestly can say I never noticed a difference. And that was my other, I initially told Jeff when I started Plexus, like, this probably isn't going to work, but they have a 60-day money back guarantee. So I'll just get my money back then. Like, I did not think, but it was like, well, at least I'll say I tried.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I was super skeptical. And I actually, Chelsea connected me with Alicia and said, because I was like, I don't know, I need to talk to my midwife and see. And so I talked to Alicia
I,
as a midwife, like, let me get your insight. I talked to my midwife, and yeah, it was like, let's do it. I mean, I was already spending money on pretty much the same kinds of things. Like I was looking for the vitamin and probiotic, I was doing all those things but never noticing a difference. So it's like, well, let's do it.
yep. That is exactly where I came from too. I was this queen of supplements. There was no brand I hadn't tried, and I
Yeah.
had conglomeration. In fact, I have a before and after picture of
Yeah.
all the things I was taking before. And I mean, that was expensive.
Like a handful and still nothing. Yes.
No changes. But I, like you, figured, well, it's got to be doing something, surely. So I
Right.
just taking it. I kept buying it and taking it.
Yes.
Thing I loved about Plexus, though, is well, not only are the products far superior than anything else I'd been taking, but we have coaches that help us along. And you talked about Chelsea referring you to Alicia, and we have a wonderful team, don't we, Amber? Of we've got a question, we can always take it to someone else. We don't get that when we buy from Amazon or Costco or some of the other places I was buying from. So I love that personal connection that has come with doing Plexus.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, then, at what point did you decide I'm all in with this?
It wasn't until August 3rd of 2020 I woke up one morning and everything, like, each day just goes by, and we know, like, I haven't had panic attacks and I haven't had this or that. I'm not struggling, like, to be personal. I didn't know it was normal to poop every day. It was like, oh, okay. So things like that where, like, you don't really think about some of that on the day-to-day basis. But then when I looked back and saw everything, so I woke up that morning and I clearly heard God say to me, I did not heal you so that you could keep it to yourself. And it was like a smack between the eyes, like, oh
That's right.
my gosh. And I thought back to all of these things and, like, just so many things that I just thought, with I just have to live with this forever. And like, the biggest part of my story is the anxiety and depression, but all of these little things, even where it was like, oh, you're right, like, I need to share this with people. Like, I need to share this hope. I realized, like, I'm not giving God the glory through this either then. Like, what a cool story. And then just to keep it to myself. And so I just was like, okay, so I got on Facebook, just wrote up a post of, like, I've been keeping this to myself, but I think I'm supposed to share it with people. If you're interested, reach out to me. At, like, no, I was not doing the business still. I kept telling, like, I'll just tell a few people, like, if they're interested, I'll share something. And so at that point, Chelsea reached out and said, hey, like, if you want to start sharing the business, you should talk to Alicia. So I was like, I don't know.
And
And so I talked,
she didn't know what you'd already been told by God.
no,
Wow.
I
Oh,
didn't tell anybody. I mean, honestly, I was talking to my husband last night and telling him some of this, and he's like, why haven't you been telling me your story? Like, what has been, I mean, what? You're
yeah.
sharing with all these other people. And, like, have I not been? But I was so in that mindset of, like, I'm not doing that, God. Like, I'll just take my healing and feel good, but I'm not going to be vulnerable. And, I felt like if I put myself out there, same thing. People think, oh, you just want me to buy something for you or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's not my heart in it. And so I was nervous.
Right.
And Alicia and I did a Zoom. They were still traveling, and I remember telling her, like, I don't want to do the business. I just kind of want to just, like, tell people every once in a while, like, is there a certain kind of post I'm supposed to do? And that was August 5th. I wrote, and
Well, you
so
put your dates down. You must be journaling, huh?
yeah. uh September 17th, then I did a post on the pink drink, like, not intentional, really looking for anything, but we had just moved. I was just like, hey, so glad I have this for, my mental clarity and new baby and whatever. And it was a whole nother month before it was like, well, I'll just share this story I found on Guts and Grace. So I was in September, um, so October then, when is when I started to look back at my posts, and it was like, okay, October like 12th, 13th is when I started to kind of be more intentional on it. Um, so it's only been a few months. This fire just ignited in me because people started asking, what have you been doing? Or like, tell me more about your story. And the more that I shared, the more it felt like I got to keep telling people, like, this is just so crazy. And um, even not just like, I have to catch myself with, there's little things that Plexus helps with too. Like,
Right.
if you don't have these big health things, that's awesome. But there's still these little things that we just think are normal.
Right.
Um,
Things like sleeping better,
yeah,
more energy, elevated moods, all those little things that we all deal with. We don't
yeah.
realize mostly they're all connected with the gut.
Yeah. Well, even like, holidays or whatever, we'd have a dessert and it'd be like, I'm going to take my piece for now, but I'm setting some aside for later. Or, I can't just go have a bite of the chocolate bar. I need to hide and eat more. Like, I don't have that craving anymore. And that was something too that over time I realized, oh yeah, I don't really have that anymore.
That was with me as well. I had no more cravings. I
Yeah.
craved potato chips, chocolate, Diet Coke. Oh my goodness, I was hooked on that stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't in the past, it was I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna, or rev up all my self-discipline and then I would fail every time. And I had gone about 2 weeks and I realized, hey,
Yeah.
I haven't been going to the pantry for these things. I haven't had a Diet Coke in how long? I just
Yeah.
thought it wasn't like I even had to try. So that's those little things you were talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of again like me in that I still don't think I sell. I
I
don't think I
know.
sell as a salesman. I share, I
Yes.
share what I share the hope that is out there for my friends.
I have that now where I feel like this is something people need to know, and I've told people before, it's kind of like the gospel. Like, I can't keep this to myself now. Like, I'm not going to be offended if somebody says no, or whatever, but like, I feel like it's my job to share, this is here. If this is something that could bless you, great. If not, totally fine. But like, it takes that pressure off, and um yeah, it's really been so cool just to have, like, I've had a lot of people just reach out to me and want to enroll and start with the products, and then I reach out to the other people, and it's been really, really fun to just see, to get the text or the phone call where it's like, it's only been a few days, but I'm already seeing these, differences, or like, my numbers went down on this test
Yeah.
at the doctor, and like those things where it's like, thank you, Jesus. Like, I am just your vessel sharing this, but like, it is so cool to get to partner with people and, you know, to see kind of those chains of things being broken, especially when it's something we're just said, like, you just have to live with it.
And you
No.
don't. There's so many people out there like us who think this is just the way it's going to be, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, we don't have to take it personally. We're out there scattering seed, just like with the gospel, the good news of Jesus. We're
Yeah.
scattering our little seeds out there, and what they decide to do with them is up to them. But what a payday that is when I get messages back from people who
Yes.
have experienced some amazing results. To me, I mean, that paycheck is really, really nice.
Right.
What that the feeling I get when I get those messages and they come in frequently,
Yeah.
uh, my friends who are experiencing results, it is there's nothing like it. So
Yeah. And I've told people that, like, I did tell one friend, I almost wish I almost didn't get paid for this, because people have that like negative connotation. But I said I would be sharing regardless. Like, it's nice to get that paycheck, but you know, and I think people can see that. They can see that you're genuine and that your heart is in it, where it's like, I just want to see you feel better. Like, you
I,
know,
yeah, and that is exactly right. Oh my
yeah.
goodness, what an incredible story you have, Amber. And I mean, it's just inspiring all the way around from beginning to end. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. And we pray that God's blessings will continue to pour out on you and your family. And so thank you again. Do you have any closing words to say? Anything else? Anything I didn't ask?
Um, I don't think so. It's just a blessing to get to share. And like I said, anytime I get a chance, I'm just like, okay, because when you look back at how far I've come, I mean, I look at my family now and I look at, you know, the dark places that I was before, and it's like, it just brings you to tears to think if I had given in or if I had given up, I wouldn't be, you know, enjoying this life. And I think it's just being able to share that hope is just so exciting.
It's a wonderful privilege, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Amber. And the Lord bless you as you
You
go out
too.
and continue scattering your seed.